Next time on Death Battle.
Subscribe and join as a member to see more Death Battle. Thanks for watching.
Oh, that's stupid!
Really stupid.
You dare agree with me? Prepare to meet your horrible doom!
Well, I think we all knew that this was inevitable, so let's just get it over with. And I'm not even gonna bother doing a prediction for this one. We're just gonna have a good old-fashioned rant, which we haven't had in a while, because I'm just going to call this one for what it is. This matchup, RWBY versus Maka, is completely and utterly worthless. Not to mention, I've covered this matchup before, most likely on one of my live streams or something like that, because my original series of covering bad death battle ideas used to be an exclusive segment on my live streams, and only recently have I devoted its own video series to it. But that's neither here nor there. I have a long history with this matchup alongside Jason versus Michael, Myers, and Madara versus Aizen. This is just one of those matchups that no matter how many times I try to tell people it's a stupid idea, they never listen to me. But I guess here we go again, and let's hope this is the last time I ever have to talk about it, because this matchup is just horrible. But the first thing I want to get out of the way is the obvious thing. Just like with the last time when I ranted about a episode special, you know, when they did their whole 100th episode, and they did Mario vs. Sonic. You all remember how I reacted to that one. Well, looking back at it in hindsight, I almost feel like I owe Sonic versus Mario an apology, because at least that one made some fucking sense. Yeah, it was a tired, dead, trendy matchup based on a rivalry that had died out a long fucking time ago, but at least it made some sense because you have these two legendary video game icons going at it, and it was also a rematch, so there was some kind of precedent for that being the 100th episode. So, what do they do for the 200th episode? Oh, well, let's do RWBY versus Maka. But let's not just do RWBY versus Maka, let's do RWBY versus Maka years after anybody gives a flying shit about it. Because that's one thing I've been noticing right out the gate, and I even went in the Death Battle comment section to confirm this, of the RWBY preview video. Nobody gives a flying fuck about this matchup, because RWBY is dead. So just like with Mario vs. Sonic, they've learned nothing. But now, instead of trying to bring in a dead rivalry, now they're just trying to bring in a dead franchise. And I don't care what you RWBY fans try to say, RWBY is fucking dead. It has been dead ever. I mean, I would argue RWBY died when Monty died, but even if that's a little too much for you, let's just go with the fact that Rooster Teeth is gone. It's over with. There hasn't been enthusiasm for the RWBY franchise in a long-ass time. For fuck's sake, they did a DC RWBY crossover, and nobody gave a flying fuck. So, what the hell? So again, dead franchise. Who gives a flying fuck? Let's not also forget that every time Death Battle brings in a RWBY character, it always blows up in their face. Yang versus Tifa comes to mind. You know, a Death Battle that was so fucking atrocious, I literally had to come in and fix it. I, with pretty much no resources whatsoever, had to fix their fucking episode because they fucked it up so badly. An episode so legendarily bad that even Death Battle's own researchers had to tell them that, yeah, you guys fucked this one up and you did Tifa dirty. But because Death Battle never seems to learn their lesson, they then do Blake versus Mikasa, which was also pretty bad. And then they did Mitsuru versus Weiss. The difference was, at least there was some buzz around RWBY back then. Now there's no buzz. Nobody is talking about RWBY anymore. It's over. Rooster Teeth died, they got bought out by Warner Bros, and then Crunchyroll bought the RWBY franchise from Rooster Teeth, but they haven't done anything with it. And the RWBY franchise hasn't been relevant for who knows how long. So who's gonna give a crap about this matchup? Nobody does, and even if you are somebody who gives a crap, how can you still be enthusiastic when they're doing the matchup right after nobody really cares anymore? Ask yourself that. And even if you were excited for this matchup, what the fuck is there to be excited about? Because the whole premise of this matchup is, this is the worst kind of mirror matchup. Because the whole idea behind this matchup is, they're teenage schoolgirls that save the world and wield scythes. What the fuck are you gonna do with that? What can you do with that? You can't do a fucking thing with that. It's fucking worse than Zuko versus fucking Todoroki. Even fucking Thor versus Raiden wasn't this fucking lame. This is horrible. This is everything I always tell people doesn't fucking work about versus matches. Like, this is not the same thing as, like, a martial arts battle or a fucking sword fight. Like, it's two characters wielding scythes. How deep are you gonna fucking go with that? And I know there'll be some RWBY shitheads that'll try to tell me that, oh, well, actually, RWBY has this ability and that ability. Who the fuck cares? For all intents and purposes, all both these characters are known for, and Maka is no exception, is they both wield scythes. And while, sure, I'm willing to bet that RWBY and Maka probably has some other abilities outside of using scythes, but that's not the reason why people want to see this matchup. They just want to see two teenage girls try to cut each other in half with a scythe. Great fucking matchup. I'm sure that's going to go over well. Seriously, what the fuck are you going to write here? What story are you going to tell with these two? What are you going to do? This matchup is so tiny and puny. You go from Hulk versus Godzilla. Say what you want about Hulk versus Godzilla. I had my problems with that matchup, but at least Hulk versus Godzilla satisfies your versus itch on some level. At least I can say that Hulk versus Godzilla, it felt big, and at least there was a lot more you could do with that. Now, yeah, Death Battle didn't do a ton with it, but at least in the right hands, you could hypothetically do a lot with Hulk versus Godzilla. You could get the best writers in the world, and they wouldn't be able to do jack shit with this. You could get fucking Tite Kubo himself and tell him, write a fight between RWBY versus Maka that would be epic, and I'm pretty sure even he would throw up his hands and say, yeah, there's not shit all I can do. Seriously, if you are somebody who thinks that this is a good matchup, tell me, what the fuck can you do with this matchup? It doesn't feel larger than life. It's a fucking whack mirror matchup. There's no story to be told. What are you gonna do? How long is this going to last? I would be surprised if you could get more than 3 minutes worth of animation out of this. I would even think even Moro himself could do diddly dick with this. And I'd be surprised if he even bothered to waste his time with this. This would be an insult if you gave it to Moro or Devil's Artemis. This is the, like, if this isn't a sprite animated fight, I will be surprised. Because this is a type of fight that is so utterly worthless. It's not even worth turning into a 3D fight. It's not worth turning into a hand-drawn fight. It's completely worthless. And I know that in the past, we have gotten 3D fights out of Yang and Tifa, which I will admit, I have to begrudgingly admit, were at least well animated. And then you got a 3D fight out of Blake versus Mikasa, which, by the way, was one of the worst fucking 3D fights I've ever seen in my life. It literally looked like a fucking laggy video game. And then you had Whis versus Mitsuru. Great. Fucking wonderful. Yeah, the animation was okay, but to what end? You're just wasting the animator's time because you have 3 stock fights and all of them are also mirror matches. So I really don't know what the fuck Death Battle is trying to do here. I am so sick and tired of Death Battle jumping onto things right after the point where anyone would even give a shit. That's a huge freaking problem. If you're not able to be on top of things like this, then who gives a flying fuck? You're just reviving dead matches and dead trends that don't matter anymore. And what I think makes this matchup even worse is I've been reading, and my sources have been telling me that apparently the original plan for episode 200 was Yugi versus Ash Ketchum. Now, don't get me wrong. I've already made my thoughts clear on Yugi versus Ash Ketchum. I think it's a deeply dysfunctional fight. But if I'm going to be objective and nuanced about it, I'll at least say that Ash Ketchum versus Yugi Moto makes more fucking sense as a 200th episode than RWBY versus Maka. At least with Ash Ketchum versus Yugi, you got two iconic faces from two iconic, big, internationally known franchises that are timeless and essentially unkillable. At least there's something there. At least it's something we haven't seen yet. At least people are actually talking about Ash versus Yugi. I still see conversations crop up in my Discord from time to time about Ash versus Yugi. Even Light Yagami versus Columbo, as god-awful as that match is, at least I can say there's some buzz around it, and people are at least talking about it. Nobody is talking about RWBY versus Maka, except maybe a small subset of the people that initially asked for this matchup. But other than that, nobody cares. So, essentially, they're saying that, oh, well, Ash versus Yugi isn't done yet, so instead, we're just gonna completely flush our 200th episode down the fucking toilet by doing a matchup that I'm pretty sure nobody gives a shit about. I know I've been saying nobody cares. Of course, yeah, there'll be a small minority of people that care because there's always, no matter how bad a matchup is, there's always going to be people that request it, fine, whatever. What I'm saying is in the grand scheme of things, like, nobody in the community is talking about this. And the only people that are people like me that make YouTube videos talking about this stuff. Like, yeah, you've got prediction videos here and there. I'm sure Nemesis will probably mention it. I'm sure all those lazy reaction channels that do nothing but react to crap like Death Battle will probably make something about it. But in the larger scheme of things, this doesn't matter. Couldn't you have at least picked a matchup that at least feels big and important? Like I said, this matchup feels small. It feels petty. There's nothing about this that screams importance to me. This screams filler. Like, if this was an anime series, this would be the filler episode that nobody gives a crap about. And again, while I've made my thoughts clear on things like Ash versus Yugi, Hulk versus Godzilla, Kratos versus Asura, Light versus Columbo, at least I can say something about those matchups. At least I can say people are talking about them, and on some level they would at least make a whole heck of a lot more sense than this, because there's also the whole buzz of, well, what's the live action fight going to be? A lot of people are banking that it might be Light versus Columbo, but we don't know. At least there would be that. Here, we know exactly what we're gonna get. There's not gonna be any surprises here. So who cares? And I can't with this. It's not worth it. And I'm going to be real with you all. I don't even want to review it. I don't want to make any prediction videos. I don't care who wins. This is likely going to be an episode that I will skip. And if I even ever do cover this in the future, it'll either be in the form of a bite-sized review, because there's literally not dick all to say about this matchup. And even if they try to make it pseudo-epic, it's going to amount to absolutely nothing. You could try to get Moro to make this awesome, but I would ask, to what end? It's clear that similar to Deku versus Miles Morales, Death Battle is telling us that, yeah, this is just a filler episode while we work on one that people actually cares about, like Hulk versus Godzilla, and that's literally what Death Battle is telling us here. Apparently Death Battle said that they need more time to work on Ash versus Yugi, which while I'm at least glad that they're at least taking their time to get Ash versus Yugi right instead of shoving it out the door, I also don't like Death Battle wasting our time with pointless filler. If you need more time to do Ash versus Yugi, then just say that the next one is Ash versus Yugi, but just let us know if it's going to take a little bit longer. Don't waste our time with garbage filler like this. Like I said, I'm probably not even going to review this one because I actually have respect for my viewers' time and don't want to waste it, because I'm sure all of you can already guess what I'm going to say about this. So why bother? I think I'd much rather use that time to cover a death battle that people actually want to see me cover, like Spawn versus Ghost Rider, or Omni-Man versus Bardock, which unfortunately I never got to follow up on after my prediction video. So, yeah, let me know in the comments below what death battle you'd much rather see me cover, because like a lot of the other death battles I have a history with, this one is no Madara versus Aizen, this one is no Ghost Rider versus Spawn, where you know that that has some weight to it, especially given my history with those matchups. This one is just basically like a fly buzzing around me that won't go away. And I can't even be bothered to summon the effort to swat it because it's not even worth the effort. But let me know what you think about RWBY versus Maka. Are you legitimately excited for this matchup? And please, if you are excited for this matchup, please do tell me why. Tell me why you think this is a good matchup. I'm legitimately curious to find out what people see in these types of matchups. Even though I can be kind of harsh on certain matchups, I am legitimately curious to hear some people's perspectives on why they think certain matchups are good or not. Just because I think the matchup might be bad doesn't mean I'm not still intrigued to hear people's thoughts on why they might enjoy it. And if you are somebody who's looking forward to this matchup, I legitimately, honest to God, hope that you enjoy it. I really do. It's just that for me, I know I'm not going to enjoy this, and I know I'm not even going to enjoy reviewing it, so I'm not going to bother. I usually like to cover death battles that I know I'm going to have a lot to say about, and I know I'm not going to have a lot to say about this. But that's all I got for you guys. I'll see you guys around next time.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Back again.